Well, hello and welcome to another amazing guest interview on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsal, and you may be wondering, how do I know if this interview is going to be amazing when we didn't record it yet? No, I didn't come back and record this bumper afterwards. We do a one and done take here. We batch our podcast recordings. I spend the entire day interviewing people, and it's an amazing, awesome day. But our guest today is a repeat Profit with Law guest. So I know it's going to be amazing because he's been here before and he amazed us once. And usually when you do it once, you're going to do it twice. So our guest today is Brendan Ruane, and Brendan was here at episode 332, A Beginner's Guide to Boosting Your Social Engagement with Brendan Ruane. You can find that at profitwithlaw.com/332. And that's where you can find all of our podcast episodes as well as in your podcast player. So whatever your listening modality of choice is, go listen to that other episode we did if you want to hear about Brendan's story, because we're going to skip that part and jump right into the actual content today. And last time we talked about social, and we're going to go in a different direction because he does a lot of work with websites, law firm websites, and we're going to talk all about websites, what you need to know, what you may or may not be looking for, how important is your website. We're going to dive into all of these questions and have a discussion around it. Let me just tell you the quick official intro for Brendan. He's passionate about helping lawyers get the most out of their budgets. Having grown up the son of a solo, he has seen the struggles firsthand and works with his clients to help them understand how to judiciously spend their money to get the best results. And I will tell you that when any law firm comes to me and says, hey, I'm thinking about engaging a marketing agency, and it's going to cost me X amount per month to engage with them and to work with them, there's a few starting points that I tell them, make sure that you have this in order before you start spending big bucks on marketing. Like, there's some really basic stuff that you need to have covered. And the first one is a website, and a website that tells your story, that gives somebody the impression of what your firm is all about. And so many people do this poorly. So Brendan, welcome to the show.
It's great to be back. Thanks for having me, Moshe.
It's my pleasure. And I want to jump right in. And I think the best place to start is to talk about the mistakes, because when we highlight the things that people may be doing wrong, it's easy to see when somebody's doing wrong. You look at it, you're like, oh, this is wrong, that is wrong. When they're doing something right, it's harder to compliment them and pinpoint, why does this feel right? So I want to start with when you look at somebody's website and are proposing a redo, right? Or you're proposing fixes or changes or just revamping the whole thing. What are you finding are the top errors that people are making in the creation and design of their website?
Sure. So, I mean, we could talk for about 6 hours on that with some of the websites that I come across, but kind of top line things. Number one, obviously you want to make sure that you're designing mobile first. With 70+% of internet usage being on mobile devices, you want to make sure that your site actually functions properly on mobile, and that the design has taken that into effect. So it's really common, just a quick example on that, it's really common for a lot of sites to have some kind of contact form in a sidebar. You see it on almost every lawyer's website. However, in design, that sidebar is just going to drop to the bottom of the page on a mobile device anyway. So you may want to actually, in your design, have some different call to actions in the body of your content to actually get people to fill out their information or text you or call you or whatever you want that contact to be. So that's just a quick example of, design really, being a major factor. Another thing,
Brendan, I'm going to jump in real quick. It's funny that this is like the number one thing that you're mentioning, because it didn't even occur to me. It was frustrating at the moment, but literally this morning, I went to somebody's website. I clicked through an email that was to a blog post article. I went to read the blog post article, and they had one of these auto pop forms that automatically popped up, and it filled the phone to the extent that the X to close it and the button to click to go to the next thing was off to the right of the phone and below. And I actually couldn't access that. And I couldn't get to the website. I couldn't actually get to read the article that they shared. because it had this obnoxious pop-up thing that even if I was interested, I couldn't take action on. And since I wasn't interested, I couldn't make it go away and actually read the content I went to read. So definitely something that you want to think about, not just about the call to actions being there, but also making sure that your site is usable, and that you haven't added a doohickey that's going to block the usage of your site.
Yeah, it dovetails perfectly into the second part, which is all of this stuff on the screen that is distracting the user from actually doing what you want them to be able to do. So this is really common with chat widgets that people put on their sites. So I've seen a lot of sites, and I'm talking large vendors that are out there that provide chat services to a lot of law firms, where they have a chat thing that pops up in the bottom right of the screen. And instead of it just being a little bubble that you can click to engage with it, it automatically opens, taking up a bunch of the screen. I've seen them where they also have a kind of floating menu on the left-hand side of the screen where you can click to also access and chat with somebody. The worst for this is actually car dealerships. If you ever try to go to a car dealership website on your phone, you're just going to throw your phone away because it's the most frustrating experience. But lawyers are a pretty close second with that. And again, when it comes to stripping away, this kind of leads overall on just the design conversation. What you're trying to do is you're trying to strip away as much as possible on your website to get the user to take the action that you want to take, whether that be get information or contact you. And so while all those things, when you're sitting at a desktop and you have a very large screen and it doesn't look like much, and it's like, oh yeah, well, I've got all this cool interactive stuff on my site, it may actually be reducing the ease of the pathway, because that's really what you want. You want the ease of the pathway to get them to take the action that you want to take. And that's for your website in general. That's doubly the case if you're dealing with anything that's a landing page. So if you're spending on ads or any other marketing to send them to a specific landing page, don't have your chat on the landing page. Exclude it, because they're coming to that page not to chat with you. You want to get them to actually either click to call, click to text, or fill in your form. So don't distract them with anything else. So that definitely is something, that you can easily, by just bringing up your site on your phone, you can see how frustrating it is for somebody to actually use my site.
Now, you make a really good point that when somebody lands on my website, so let's say they were searching for, a criminal attorney in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and they came up with the map pack and they click on one of them to check them out. And then they click the website button and boom, it takes them to the website. You made a good point. Like, what's the purpose of the website? The purpose of the website is to take them on a journey. And what is the journey that you want to take somebody who's interacting with you for the first time? What is the journey you want to take them on? And if we really think about it, it's kind of like, okay, well, if we know who they are, then we know what the next step is for them. But if we don't know who they are, then we don't know what the next step is for them. So one of the things that we're actually redoing our website right now, and one of the things that we're thinking about doing, and I'm wondering, I've never seen a law firm do this, but I'm wondering if this is something that you might recommend, is get away from all of the standard stuff. Take the menu away, take all that away, and ask a simple question for them to self-identify who they are right at the front. Like, are you actively seeking a criminal attorney, or who are you? Right? I'm actively seeking a criminal attorney, and I just picked a criminal attorney as an example, but I'm actively seeking a criminal attorney. I'm another attorney looking for an attorney, or I'm looking for work. I don't know, like whatever the different people are that might come to the site. And in my case, it might be it might be to identify what stage of business growth you're at. So I might have, I'm a brand new solo law firm owner. I've hired my first staff members, or we've got a team of 20 plus, and then based on which one they choose, I can then take them on that next journey. So if they choose, hey, I'm actively looking for a criminal attorney, then you could take them straight to a page that says, here's why we're the best attorney for you. Here's the next steps you want to take. Pick up the phone and call us. Here's the number, or fill out this form, or whatever. What are your thoughts on that? And have you seen anybody try that? And if not that, then what can you do to make sure that when somebody's landing there, they are taking the journey that you want them to take?
Yeah, so I have seen some, not attorneys, but I've seen other sites that have done similar things. We've tested out some things like that situation. I would say that I wouldn't really want that to be your homepage, mainly because you're going to want content on your homepage just organically for rankings, and your homepage is generally, and this gets to a larger conversation on sites in general, but for most firms out there, your website and your homepage in particular, and how it looks and feels, is a huge deciding factor for people to contact you. It's not necessarily for people who are just randomly searching online, but for any other way that somebody finds out about you, whether it be through a referral from another lawyer, from a referral from a friend, from searching, from any marketing efforts you're doing. Most law firms, when that person hits your site, really what you need your website to do at the most basic level is say, this firm is legit and they can help me with my problem. That's the number one focus. So I wouldn't want to strip away all that stuff that you could have on the homepage to answer that question. Now, one of the ways, there's a couple different ways you can do that. Now, you could have easily in the hero section on your website in particular, if you know, well, we have these 3 buckets of potential people that are on our site. You can have your hero section broken into thirds and have, for solos, for small firms, for larger firms, like say if those were your 3 buckets. And so you still have the same message of, we help you grow your firm, but you're saying, hey, I want you to self-identify. And each of those sections can have a button to, find out how we can help your particular type of firm. So it's a way of incorporating that question, but you're not completely doing away with all of the other good stuff that you have on your homepage, because people want to know, okay, well, is this just, otherwise you can start to look just like a ClickFunnels page that somebody's just trying to sell something. They're not getting, any idea of who you are. Another part to that is, and this is, a little tidbit of kind of warning signs that, as we started our conversation, is attorneys that don't have a picture of themselves on their website, a high quality professional picture of themselves on their website. I wouldn't necessarily trust anyone to be my lawyer if I couldn't actually see what they looked like. Even better if it's video and they can hear, you speaking, you make a better connection. But all of those things are fundamental things that kind of just are trust symbols that people see on your homepage. So you don't really want to strip that kind of stuff away.
Now, I understand if somebody's a solo, put your picture right on the front page, right? But what if you've got 20 staff members? What if you've got 4 or 5 attorneys? Are you recommending that the owner of the firm have their face on the homepage? Or is it better in the like about us or our team section? And then if the latter is the case, are you recommending like a team photo on the front page or something else?
So there's a couple of different ways that you can do it that can be successful. So you can have kind of a team photo on the homepage. You can have not necessarily the whole team, but images where you're taking kind of B-roll shots of a couple attorneys working around a conference room table, or you can use either the owner of the firm, or say the 2 partners of the firm, and have a kind of a direct message on the homepage that kind of lays out the firm's kind of mission and their philosophy and how they deal with clients. That also kind of makes that connection that you say, oh, okay, these are real people and this is why they got into law, or very briefly how they run their firm. And, you can self-determine at that point if you think that kind of firm would be a firm that you want to work with. Because in the end, everybody wants business, but there is a cost of having bad clients that aren't a great fit for your firm Whereas, yeah, you get revenue dollars, but it may cause a lot of other headaches. And so you really want to get those people that'll self-identify as the types of clients that you want. So you can do that in a couple different ways. But yes, you do need to have images of real people that are in your firm on your homepage. Invest a little bit in that. You would be amazed at the world of difference with a little bit of investment in really good high quality photos can make for the way that people perceive your website and your firm.
So if I hear you correctly, what you're saying is if you're gonna redo your website, if you're going to do it right, invest in professional photography to have proper headshots, proper team shots, with some proper in-action shots to pepper in around your website in various places, so that people who are there are not only getting a level of professionalism, but they're also getting an interaction with you before they even come into the office.
Exactly. Now, here's a little hack for everybody that's listening. So one of the things we do in our design work is when we design a site, we use stock photography to design all the pages, the templates, the layouts, everything like that. Then what we do is we actually compile those stock images into a zip file and we send it to the client and we say, these are the shots that you're going to need that we know will work with, because we know, okay, you need to be on this side of this shot so we can overlay text on this or whatever else that we have in the design. So you can take that, and another kind of second step to this hack is find yourself somebody who shoots prom photos, high school graduation photos, family portraits, weddings. Don't necessarily go out and hire yourself a corporate, photographer. The corporate photographer can do what you want, but they're used to saying, okay, what do you want? And give me. They're usually getting a brief from a marketing agency that kind of runs down everything that you want. Whereas if you're dealing with somebody who shoots weddings or shoots family portraits, they are used to taking photos and producing photos for their clients that draw on emotions and set a stage or a feeling, because that's everything that they do. And when you couple that with a packet of, say, 13 shots that, of stock photos, they say, okay, these are the 13 things that we need. You take the two of those things and you usually get a really, really good result in photos. And the other benefit to that is those photographers are normally less expensive than a mainline commercial photographer that you would hire, because you can get them on a Tuesday or Wednesday afternoon when they're not shooting weddings. They're not, doing those things. So it's a great way to get good images on your site for less cost.
Yeah, I love that. I also think that we forget about the capability of green screen. Like that works in Photoshop too. And when you do professional photos, it might be worth your while to get a version of the photos with a green backdrop with nothing else behind you. And then you can insert yourself anywhere in the world, any background, and you could reuse the same photo in different ways to portray a different image, a different type of image. I don't know. I don't want to get too far down the photography rabbit hole. That's not what we're here to talk about, but definitely professional images on the website. Definitely something that you want to do. And there's a cool hack of how you can do it economically. All right. So we started off going through like the top mistakes. We talked about mobile first. We talked about removing distractions. We talked about having it be clear about where they're going to, what direction you want them to take, or the steps you want them to follow. Let's go back to the mistakes first. Are there any other obvious big mistakes that we should cover before we move into our next segment?
Another one big mistake is use of color on your site. So in every site that we produce, we rely heavily on color theory when it comes to choosing the colors, what's used where and when. A lot of the times firms will get stuck with, these are our brand colors that we have to use, and they want to use certain colors all over their site. But really what you want to do is you want to have your call to action color, and generally being the analogous color to the dominant color on your site. And you want to use it very sparingly because it will actually draw the eye to those places that you want to have somebody take an action. The easiest example I can give you this, if anybody's ever seen, JetBlue signage at the airport, right? JetBlue is all those, is like a navy blue and a lighter blue, but every place that you need to do something is in orange. And that's because orange is actually the opposite color on the color wheel from blue. And so your eye is naturally drawn to it. And so the use of color on your site and how that's employed can make or break a lot of your conversion levels, by driving people to the right place or distracting them away from where you want them to actually go.
Yeah, I love that. And interestingly, my immediate thought would be that we want our brand colors, but what you're saying is that the brand colors are not something you should be married to. There's definitely a deviation from that allowed or even recommended when it comes to designing your website.
Yeah, exactly. Because there may be times when your brand colors aren't going to be standalone. So if you have a logo that has, say, 2 or 3 colors in it, that's probably not going to replicate well on a dark background and a light background. So you may actually have places on your site where your logo is all white or all one solid color because it's on a light or a dark background. So don't tie yourself to just saying, oh, we have to use these 3 colors that are in our letterhead or even our sign on our building on your website, because it really doesn't, it's not going to affect your brand equity if it's, if you're not using all of those colors all the time.
Okay, awesome. All right, so we got 3 big do not do these. Now let's transition to what should we focus on? I want to specifically ask you about mood of the website. Like, is there like how do we evaluate what mood we want, and how do we set that mood when somebody comes to the site?
So it really it's determined by who your potential clients are that are going to be hitting your site. So obviously, if you are, a business law firm, you probably want a pretty much more buttoned up, look and feel, to your site. If you're a family law firm, you're probably going to be a lot more welcoming, firm, much more, you use more muted colors, things along those lines. It really comes down to who the firm is trying to attract. So the easiest example I can give is, the personal injury firms where they use a lot of red, or, and then whenever they're using red as a dominant color, you're always going to see a set of boxing gloves on the site somewhere in a stock image. And that's because they want to show that they're a fighter. Well, that's only going to attract a certain type of client. Generally, it's, they're more transactional personal injury cases. They're not larger, cases that would be flowing to that. You want to use kind of the color, the fonts, all those things to really tell them a little bit about yourself. So obviously, blues are extremely popular because blues are seen as traditional, professional, safe, all those things. That's why a lot of banks use blue in their logos and in their sites. So that's a whole portion. The other portion is the tone to actually your writing. Some firms get really, go really over the top when they try to sound like they're smart lawyers. Now, if you are doing business to business transactional work and you're dealing with, in-house counsel that's hiring outside counsel, yeah, that makes all the sense in the world for your website. But if you're dealing with, the retail customer, you really want it to be much more open, at a lower reading level, comprehension reading level, on the text. And you want it to be much more open and inviting for people to continue on. There are these things that you can do in the writing itself to also, kind of play on the mood and also keep people on your site and keep you reading. And they're just little transitions, that you can put in your reading. Brian Dean, who was the guy who started Backlinko, has had some great stuff years ago with these little interjections that you can put into your writing, which just keep people reading along. Just a little interstitial, but a little kind of brief comment, and then come back to the actual body of the content. And so when you do that, it's much more conversational when somebody is reading your site, and so they feel more at ease. So they're feeling much more okay. Like, I get these people, I understand these people. Whereas if it's very rigid, you can feel a little bit more buttoned up, and depending on your client, that could be something that's actually a turnoff for them.
Yeah, I could see that. Like, if it feels like the attorney's talking down to me, or they're on a totally different wavelength than I am, that I would have trouble connecting with them, or feeling like they're going to get me when I talk to them.
Yeah, I mean, it's really what you want to be doing is that you want to be speaking to not necessarily the legal aspects, but the issues that that potential person has. So it may not even be about, this technical thing here or there. It may be about, we'll answer your questions so you can sleep tonight. Don't worry, we're on top of it. So it's really, that's where everything obviously being client facing first, you really need to take into account what they need, and what they need is not your CV with a whole bunch of awards and accolades and attaboys and, things that, a lot of lawyers love to have. If you have those, put them on your individual profile, your profile page. But when you're speaking to the client, you want them to understand that you understand their situation and you're here to help them, and you can empathize with what they're going through and tell them how you're going to actually help them to alleviate their issue.
Yeah. Really, really good stuff. Insightful. Let's look at the broader picture. Like, what are the main components that you want to make sure your site has? Perhaps some people skip it, or maybe people know that they need it, but they're not doing it right. I'm sure that, like, the About Me page or stuff like that. Like, what are the things that absolutely every single site should have?
So, obviously every site needs to have, your homepage, a contact page. It needs to have some kind of way to tell them about your team, or, who your people are. But really from there, it's not necessarily a plug and play. Oh, you have to have X, Y, or Z. Really what it comes down to is there's three things you need to be aware of with any website that you're working with. And these are all it's the three main component parts of SEO. So it's the technical side, right? So that is a couple different things. So that's like your server speed. So your actual site hosting, the speed of that server, that makes a difference. Your site structure. So how your site's actually put together. Parent and child page relationships, and that type of thing. And along with that is internal linking between your pages. So that's kind of the technical side of SEO. Obviously, next that everybody's familiar with when they think of SEO is content and keywords. So high quality, content with other supporting documents. And that's where that internal linking comes from. And then the third is backlinks, obviously backlinks to your site. And you need a base amount of backlinks to get your site to rank. Backlinks, getting high quality backlinks is the most tedious and hardest part of anything. So like if you're out there and you're trying to look at SEO providers, and it's not something that we actually do ourselves, mainly because some of this stuff is tedious. You need very large teams to do it properly. But if an SEO provider is not reporting to you the backlinks that they've built, the content that they're writing each month, you may want to have a conversation with them about, what they're effectively doing for you, because that's really kind of that part. So when it comes to your site, depending on what kind of firm you have, what you want to do is you want to build out silos of content. A silo of content is a whole bunch of pages that are arranged in a way that are supported and connected. So the easiest way to example this would be, say you have a personal injury law firm. You may have a silo that is car accidents. Okay. Now, there are a lot of firms out there and a lot of marketing agencies out there that will build out that site, and they'll say St. Louis car accident attorney, or they'll and that's their main thing. And then they'll have 4 or 5 other towns that the person's trying to target. Right. And it will be, these singular pages of, car accident attorneys. That's kind of like what those big blocks at the bottom of the page with all these towns listed out was, a couple of years ago. That was kind of the old way of they were trying to keyword stuff. A much better way to do it would be to have, say, a car accident page. So say it's, I'll just give you an example in Connecticut because I know all the towns. It's easier to reference. Say it's New Haven car accident attorney. Well, yeah, you also want to have a Milford car accident attorney, a Stratford car accident attorney, a West Haven car accident attorney, because they're, you're like, oh, I want to have a page for that because I want to try to get car accident cases in those towns. Well, you would be better off having it say your main domain and have New Haven injury, and then under New Haven injury have car accident, pedestrian accident, motorcycle accident, truck accident, because then what's happening is you have a better chance of getting your New Haven injury page ranking because it's got all of these other sub pages that are supporting it. So when Google's looking at your site, you want to have that, in place. And again, doing the same thing for each of those towns. One flyer page with a town name and I'm this type of lawyer isn't going to do anything. But when you start having supportive pages, and then even in that under car accidents, you can have rear end collision, side impact collision, T-bone collision, all these different types of car accidents. Now you're starting to build out a content structure that's really going to actually benefit your site. And that's really kind of where, any good design of a website should begin. One, what's the content? And if you don't have all the content already, what's the content plan for the site? So we can see how is this going to be organized and what we actually have, because the design should be influenced by what your content is. You want your design to highlight the content because the content is what you're trying to get across, to that person that's on your site. So that's really kind of, it's more of a holistic approach to then I have this template and these are the 12 pages that I have, and we're just shove the stuff in where it's supposed to fit. But, we found over the years that that's obviously, the more effective way of going ahead of kind of building out the structure and everything when it comes to a site.
So it sounds to me like when you want to target different areas, cities, municipalities, whatever it is, you're best off having, it's almost like these little micro sites specific to that geography. Are the sub pages below it, are you able to use the same pages and just connect them to multiple top pages, or you have to create copies of them and duplicate the information?
So that's the thing. So you need to rewrite that content and you need to rewrite it enough so that you're not running into duplicate content penalties, when it comes to Google. This is the type of thing where I'm always looking to save money for firms. So one of the great hacks with this is if you pay a content writer to write all that content, it's really easy then if you can find a couple of college interns to work in your office to turn and say, okay, I need you to rewrite this content for these 4 towns or this content for these 4 towns. And then you have that rewritten content, and obviously, it's going to be different enough to, and you can run through Copyscape and different things to check and just make sure it's different enough that you're going to not run into any penalties. But yeah, that is the most effective way of getting kind of hyper localized. Because Google is just getting more and more and more local. And, you say microsites, and I understand what you're trying to explain there. I don't want people to go back to using microsites like they were 15 years ago and have a whole bunch of different websites. But yes, it's essentially that, where your homepage is kind of the top level, and then down from there, each of those silos of content that's off of your homepage will have, it'll have a silo, and then there can be sub silos of content, under there. And so each of those things is kind of the foundation in a pyramid that's building your site in whole. And this is also why, if sites are done correctly, why most sites number one ranking page is their homepage. It's because your homepage has every one of those pages as a subpage to it. So this is the way where you can get those internal pages to start ranking really well. So you may have it where in the organic rankings, you want that New Haven, injury page to be ranking when someone's searching for an injury attorney in the New Haven area. And then they can easily go, oh yeah, it's car accident, I want to go there. Now, as you build out more and more content under the car accident page, then that car in New Haven car accident injury page can move up and up in the rankings. And so that's really what it is, because Google is trying to serve the person, the site, the page that they think is going to answer whatever question that they're doing. And the more supportive content and connected content that you have to that, the more, it'll improve your rankings, and they'll show your page more.
Now, it's interesting that we went into content, and I want to talk about this for a moment. In my mind, I was separating having a website from SEO, right? Like, because when it comes to content, there's blogs, there's YouTube, there's podcasts, there's social, there's a lot of different ways to do content marketing. And there's also how you rank in Google search. But the website, in my mind, and again, this is the way I was thinking, and I'm not the website guy, you are, so I'm just sharing with you what my thoughts were, and I want you to comment on it. What I was thinking is that, like, there's a certain level of work that has to go into the website itself, so that when people are finding me through whatever means, whether it's search, whether it was on YouTube, whether it was on social, whether it was through a friend, and they come to my site, I want them to take this journey. I want them to get this feeling. I want to look, professional. I want them to want to take the next steps with me. Separately from that, we have to get people to come to the site. And that's where the content goes in. So when we were talking about this microsite stuff, which I know you don't want me to call it that, but what we've been discussing for the last 5 to 10 minutes, it seems to me like that's further into the category of how do we get people to come to the site. And I'm just wondering if do I have this right, and this delineation, and is there anything that we haven't covered on the site itself before we start figuring out, okay, how are people going to find it?
So the site itself is only useful if they're taking the journey on the site that you want them to take. And they're taking that journey because of the content that's on the pages. So that's what I mean by content. I don't necessarily mean like blog posts and, but just like, okay, here's the page structure. Here's everything that we, that we need to put together, because, that's going to inform, okay, well, how are we going to display all of our practice areas? How many are there? Are there 3? Are there 15? Do we have, is it one practice area? And so we want to list out case types. If they just do PI work, obviously we're not going to have, anything with family law or criminal law or anything else. And so it really comes down to having the foundation, because the thing is this, yes, in what you're explaining is the quote unquote base level website where it's like, I need a homepage, I need an about us page, I need a contact page. We need, I would see that as the lowest common denominator of a Yellow Pages ad 20 years ago. So you're listed in the Yellow Pages. And I'm not talking about like a full page ad. I'm saying you're listed in the Yellow Pages. That's what that is. And The thing about it is that you don't necessarily need to put all this content on your site in the beginning, but having that content plan of what it's going to be and how you can expand it over time, and having the site built so that it starts out as maybe kind of just that landing page to reinforce what people, have been referred to you or how they found you, to actually being something that organically can generate its own people coming to the site by rankings. It's like, let's lay the foundations the right way to begin with, knowing that we can add this stuff over time. If you get a whole bunch of great referrals and you never need to add that stuff, that's great. But the whole idea of the design is it's informed by what the content is, because that content is the journey that you want them to take.
Yeah, this makes a lot of sense to me. So I just want to ask one more question around this concept of having the geography you want to hit first. Are you doing that at the top menu level on the site, so that when somebody, like, typically what a law firm would do is list the practice areas or list the segments of PI, for example, the example you've been using. So they might have car accidents and scaffold accidents and machinery accidents. And if I'm hearing what you're saying, does that now mean that when I have a menu that says, it might say practice area or what we do or whatever, that it then says Milford, New Haven, Stanford, whatever, and then below that it has each of those practice areas or sub areas?
So the way that I personally prefer to do it, because I think it's easier, it's cleaner for the browser. And it also, for most clients starting out, it makes more sense and it's easier to start out with. So if I were working on that site and using the example of being a personal injury firm in New Haven, Connecticut, I would write the content for all the practice area pages for the state of Connecticut, because Connecticut's not that big of a state. Or whatever the largest geographical area that you want to focus on. So, depending on where you are, if you're out on Long Island, it may be New York, but it may be Long Island. You may not be saying New York because you don't want to go up to Buffalo. So whatever the largest geographical area that you want to cover is, and write the content for that. So when you're using, those identifying words, you'd say, in this example, use Connecticut instead of New Haven. You write all that content. That is your base content for the site. Then what you would do is you would have, and this is the easiest way to do it, is you start out by looking at, okay, what's all that content we wrote for the site that's Connecticut written, and say, well, here are the 12 pages that are kind of the top level ones, right? So we're going to do car accident, we're going to do motorcycle accident, we'll do construction accidents, all those things. But I'm not going to do the side impact collision, rear collision, all those pages yet. And you look and you say, okay, why do I have 12 pages, say, of kind of the actual cases that you want to get? I would rewrite those pages, taking the Connecticut stuff, and rewrite those for New Haven, and then rewrite those for West Haven, and rewrite those for Milford, right? So now you've just added 30 more pages or 36 more pages, there's 12 of them, to the website of content. The way I would display that on a site would be in the menu. You would have your practice areas or what you do or cases, or however you want to title it. And in there, it would list out all of the Connecticut pages. So if they have a question, they go right into that. Okay, that's their information. Then go to the about the firm. Then I would usually have something called areas served or locations. And on that menu, I would have New Haven, West Haven, Milford, whatever those towns are. If you click on that New Haven link, that's going to bring you to the New Haven injury page, which again is kind of like a microsite within the site, which is all the New Haven content. That's usually the easiest way to organize it. It's the easiest way to make it inobtrusive. What I like to do is I also want to have a page So the service areas that's in the menu is not an actual, just like a dummy link. There's actually a page, but I like to actually change that page to the URL to actually near me, because I want to actually have it so that, say my law firm is newhaveninjurylawyers.com, right? Well, that page URL is newhaveninjurylawyers.com/near me. How many times do people do a search? Google even suggests near me because people put near me so many times in their search queries. So now I actually have a URL that has New Haven Injury Lawyers near me in the complete URL, and use that page as a roll-up page to then show basically all of those towns that you're actually focused on, and that all those kind of, sub silos of content, their own little kind of micro sites, in the website in itself.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that your answer was you do both. You have your practice areas, and that's like your main, your top geographic level, all encompassing. And then you also have areas served, and that has all of the sub areas that you want to list, so that somebody can say, oh, they're in the state of Connecticut, but do they serve me? And then they look there and they're like, oh yeah, they serve New Haven. And then they go down the New Haven rabbit trail.
The one quick thing is, the other great part about this is that you can start with just that general content for the state, and you can very easily add new towns over time. So that's why I'm saying that it doesn't need to be done from the beginning, but like, if you want to start building your site and really pushing towards organic, and the other nice thing about that is, say you add this town and then next month you add one other town, you're constantly showing Google you're adding new and more content to your site all the time. It's getting recrawled all the time. That'll also help you when it comes to your ranking stuff.
Awesome. Well, time flies when you're having fun. Brendan, we're out of time. We need to wrap it up. So what I typically ask at the end of an episode is, what's one last parting piece of advice or wisdom you want to share with our listeners? And also, if somebody is interested in learning more about the content we just talked about, learning more about you, or how to work with you, if they are actively looking to get their website redone or done for the first time, perhaps listening to this episode has inspired them to do something about a website they've been ignoring for a long time, what would be the next steps for them to take with you?
Sure. So my biggest tip of advice to people, and this is something that is shocking to me, is that first thing, if you are listening to this and you don't know who is the host for your domain name and who is the host server for your website, find that information out immediately and know that information. Know where you bought your domain name and where it's registered and where your site is actually hosted. That is as valuable to you as an attorney as where your lease is for your office. And I can guarantee you all know where the copy of your lease is for your office. Even more so these days. There's a lot of firms that no one ever goes into the office. And they only deal with people online. So know that information, have that written down, and know it somewhere, committed to memory. The other thing, a quick little thing, because it's been in the news lately, I've seen a ton of people talking about ChatGPT, which when you're looking to develop content for your website can be very effective. Keep in mind, Google is not outright penalizing for using AI to generate content. Google is doing the same thing they've always done. They're penalizing content that is low quality and has spammy keywords. So you can use it and you can leverage it to your advantage as long as you're following best practices that Google has always said. If anybody has any questions or wants to talk about a potential project, or wants us to just take a look at their site and kind of give them some pointers, they can go to lightswitchadvisors.com. Fill out the contact form at the bottom of the page. We're more than happy to go over content plans. I mean, that's something we do with every new site that we work on. We actually go through, look at your competition, what they have, and kind of give you a rundown of what you're going to need for your site to be viable. And any questions that come up or anything like that, feel free, reach out and get in contact with us. I talk with attorneys every day, and I love being able to help them kind of improve what they're doing online. So I'm more than happy to help.
Awesome, folks. We're going to link all that up in the show notes. It'll be in the description of your podcast player as you're listening to this. You can also find it at profitwithlaw.com. Brendan, it's been awesome having you back. A wonderful conversation. I'm looking forward to our next opportunity. Folks, if you enjoyed this conversation, if this was helpful for you, make sure you hit the subscribe button in your podcast player so that you get notified every time we release a new episode. We're here at least once a week, every Thursday with a new guest. And we have amazing people just like Brendan coming every single week. Every single guest has not disappointed. It's literally like there's so much talent out there, and there's so much untapped talent that we can't wait to share with you. So you want to make sure that you do not miss it and that you come back and check us out again next week. So hit that subscribe button. You get notified when we release that new episode. Last thing, if you enjoyed this episode, you know somebody who can benefit from it, hit the share button in your podcast player, or just simply grab the profitwithlaw.com URL, send it over to your friend, turn them on to this episode and this podcast, and share the wealth. Let somebody else also learn from this and gain from it, and help them navigate their journey to profitable success. Until next time, take care.